I found interesting was I was reading through our wonderful, we've got a team of people here that take these great notes and reading some of this transcript here. It seems as if all the justices were a little bit skeptical of Jay Sekulo's sort of blanket argument about immunity for the president.
So, right, that's the second argument. The excerpt you just played from was the first argument about congressional subpoenas. Right. And I think my sense is, you're right, Chuck, that there's going to be a split here, that the court is very skeptical of sort of an unlimited authority of Congress to just subpoena anything it wants from the president for two reasons. The president's lawyers on that with Strawbridge, you heard there was Patrick Strawbridge of Boston appearing as a personal lawyer for the president. First of all, he says, number one, when you're trying to get something from the president, there has to be a sort of a heightened need. He's not like anybody else. Secondly, they say Congress does not have unlimited subpoena power. It can only subpoena when it's considering legislation. And I think a majority of the court seem concerned that this is sort of an open-ended thing that Congress can subpoena when it wants to do case studies, or if there's just some very tangential connection between President Trump's personal records, his family's records, and maybe tax reform or something else. And very tellingly, at one point, one of the court's liberals, Stephen Breyer, said he's worried about a future McCarthy using this against the president. So I think for that reason, the Congress is not going to fare too well. But on the second case, and this is the subpoena for President Trump's taxes from the New York District Attorney, Cy Vance, the president's lawyers, you're right, Jay Sekulow, the president's lawyer, says the president is absolutely immune from any criminal process while he's president, including grand jury subpoenas. And I don't think that had any takers among the court's 9 members. They seem more receptive to that. They didn't seem to agree with Sekulow's fallback argument, which was if you unleash 2,300 local prosecutors around the country, they're going to overwhelm the president. So my impression was, and it's always a little risky to base your conclusions on just hearing the oral argument, that they're going to have a hard time sustaining the congressional subpoenas, all 3 of them. Now, maybe they'll find that one committee's subpoenas are sufficiently tailored that they would stand, but probably more favorable to the Cy Vance efforts to get the president's tax returns for a grand jury investigation.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.